And now for an amazing true story from the book of 2 Kings, chapters 22 and 23.
King David followed God and ruled the people well. His son Solomon asked God for wisdom, and God made him the wisest king who ever lived. Now, though Solomon didn't always follow the wisdom God had given him, many of his wise sayings are recorded in the book of Proverbs.
Wise people see danger and go to a safe place.
But Solomon's son Rehoboam didn't listen to the wise sayings of his father. When he became king, he listened to foolish advice. So God allowed the kingdom to split in two, something he warned Solomon he would do.
Yeah, well, I didn't want to rule the rest of you anyway.
Rehoboam ruled Judah, and Jeroboam ruled Israel. Many other kings followed throughout the years to rule both parts of the nation. Many of them, like Rehoboam's grandson Asa, listened to God, but many others ignored God and made terrible choices.
Give me all your land. I want it. We need more than just one God. One God is so boring. Let's worship the stars in the sky, huh? Oh, and the sun. I bet they're powerful.
One king named Amon was one of the worst. By the time he died, the kingdom of Judah was a mess. And the only one to take over the throne from him was his 8-year-old son, Josiah.
The throne is so high. I don't think I can climb up there.
The king's secretary, Shaphan, smiled encouragingly.
Don't worry, young master. You'll grow into it.
Over the next 10 years, Josiah grew taller and wiser.
Shaphan, my father and the other rulers before him, they wrecked this kingdom. How did that happen?
Well, now, I don't think they did it on purpose. They just went along with what the other kings had done, and with the things nations around us do.
Well, I don't want to mess up like that. I want to be different.
First thing is finding advisors you can trust. You've already done that.
What else?
King David was great because he honored God. King Solomon, too, for much of his life.
That's it. God's temple is falling apart right now. Send word to the high priest Hilkiah. Let's repair the temple.
An excellent idea, Master.
The people began restoring God's temple. Soon, Shaphan rushed back to the palace.
King Josiah, the high priest has found a lost scroll in the temple. It has all of God's laws on it.
What? I've never heard them. Read it to me.
Let's see. Here's the first one. Do not put any other gods in place of me. Don't make statues of gods and worship them.
Shaphan read all of God's laws to the young king. Josiah wept as he listened.
Our people haven't obeyed any of God's laws. Oh, God must be angry. Call the high priest. Tell him to ask the Lord what we should do.
Shaphan returned to the high priest, and together they went to find a woman named Huldah. She was a prophet who listened to God and spoke his words.
Here's what God says. I am angry with the people because they have deserted me and worshipped statues of other gods. But I have heard King Josiah. His heart is soft, and he has humbled himself, so he will have peace.
Josiah was grateful that God had listened to him. He wanted everyone in the kingdom to hear God's laws and humble themselves too.
Call everyone to the temple.
The people of Judah crowded into the temple courtyard. This time when God's laws were read, every single person in the kingdom had the chance to hear them. And when he was done, Josiah stepped before the crowd and raised his voice to God.
I promise to follow your commands with all my heart and soul. We will do everything that's written down in this scroll.
All the people agreed.
Yes!
Here we go.
Now it's time to get rid of those fake gods. Who's with me?
Then Josiah and the people went around and destroyed everything that had been made to worship other gods. They went around the kingdom and destroyed altars made of stone. Then they burned statues of chariots and horses that had been made to worship the sun as a god. When it was over, the young king called for a great feast.
This year, we'll celebrate the Passover.
God's law said to hold a special feast every year. It was a reminder of when God saved his people when the angel of death passed over their families. But the people of Israel had forgotten all about it.
We will remember everything that God has done for us. We will keep his laws and honor him in everything we do.
As long as Josiah lived, he ran to the Lord with all of his heart and soul and strength. He understood the wisdom of King Solomon's proverb written years before. Wise people see danger and go to a safe place. Childish people keep going and suffer for it. So instead of following all those foolish kings that had come before, Josiah chose wisdom and had taken a better path.